Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on in, kings and queens, and welcome to the conversation. You're watching the TriCast. I'm TriCasting on Facebook Live and YouTube and LinkedIn. So we want to welcome you. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the conversation. And if you are returning, we want to welcome you back. We've got a follow-up to the show from last week that I know you're going to want to share. So be sure, if you haven't already, be sure to like and share and subscribe. So whenever I post new videos, you will be the first to know. I am going to type in as we get started. If you want to join us, you have any questions, feel free to type in your questions and comments and I can pass them on to our guests. But if you want to text me, you can text me at 214-919-9360. Text me with your questions, and we will be sure to pass those on. So what are we talking about today? Well, it's been 67 years since Brown versus the Board of Education federal mandate was passed that desegregated public schools. And the hope was for children of all races and nationalities to have fair and equal access to public education in the United States. Yet 2 generations later, some people in charge of that fair and equal access have been caught practicing what can only be described as favoritism at best and blatant racism at worst. Earlier this month, we learned about 2 Black high school seniors in West Point, Mississippi, whose hard work and grade point averages won them the coveted awards and coveted spots of being named valedictorian and salutatorian, only to find out that some white parents didn't like that their children were beat out by 2 Black students. So they forced school administrators to do some fuzzy math and to recalculate those grade point averages, causing the school to name those 2 white students, one as co-valedictorian and co-salutatorian with those 2 Black students. So you can check out the details of last week's show. It's called Critical Race Theory is Reality in America. So never mind that co-valedictorian and co-salutatorian makes 0 sense. Never mind that these mysterious classes that were used to erroneously boost the GPAs of those white students appeared out of thin air. Now we know that that's not the first time that a Black student who was publicly named and officially named valedictorian in a school district in Mississippi has been cited for not following, the school district has been cited for not following standard operating procedures and also for violating Mississippi Department of Education protocol. A similar injustice happened to another student. Her name is Jasmine Shepard when she was a graduating senior at Cleveland High School in Cleveland, Mississippi in 2016. Miss Sherry Shepard is Jasmine's mother, and Jasmine Shepard, they are my guests today. So we want to welcome them to the show. Welcome, Dr. Shepard and Miss Jasmine. I appreciate you taking out the time to be with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Steffanie.
So I know that someone showed you, or you read, or you heard my column, the video column from last week, and you contacted me after learning about, and you might have already known about the what happened at West Point Consolidated School District, and how this this is a modern day example actually of critical race theory at work. And you might even be able to talk to us more about critical race theory. And because in my opinion, a lot of people don't want that to be a part of the curriculum, because if they can ignore its reality, then they don't have to argue, or they don't have to have people openly discussing it. Everybody knows there's only one valedictorian and only one salutatorian in the senior class. So therein lies obviously the inconsistency. But Jasmine's story is very similar to Layla Temple and Ikeria Washington in West Point, Mississippi, and another student that you told me about. So with any public curriculum, Dr. Shepherd, courses are approved with course numbers, but in your daughter's case, white students were allowed to get credit for unapproved courses by illegally giving these unapproved courses legitimate course numbers. Explain to us what happened in your daughter's case, as well as Jasmine, what you personally experienced.
In Mississippi, all of the courses that a student takes that allows them to receive credit for graduation must be approved by the Mississippi Department of Education. The Mississippi Department of Education publishes an approved courses manual, and in that manual, it describes all of the courses that are approved, the medium of those courses, whether they are in-class courses, whether they're dual enrollment, dual credit classes, whether they're online courses, and whether they are courses taken for extra credit. But all of those courses are assigned a course number by the State Department of Education that must be used to identify those courses. Also in Mississippi, there is a process whereas Mississippi tracks the courses that student takes, and it's a way that they determine whether or not the courses are being taught by highly qualified staff, and they link the courses between the student and the teacher actually teaching the course, such that they could make sure that they are in line with the guidelines of the State Department of Education. This information is all reported in a student database system that Mississippi called MSIS. MSIS is the acronym. And through MSIS, these courses receive their identity and the reports are made accordingly. Now, in my daughter's case, there were courses that the district attributed to the other young lady in her case, and in the court document, she's named as HB. And HB was allowed to receive credit for courses that were not in the approved courses manual of the Mississippi Department of Education. The district subsequently claimed that the courses were online courses. And in Mississippi at the time, all online courses had to be approved by the state if they did not accept the courses that Mississippi offered. And if the district chose to offer online courses through another vendor, that vendor had to be an approved vendor through the Mississippi Department of Education. None of this was the case in Heather's case. From the beginning, the district never offered online courses. They never shared with parents, students, or anybody that students could take online courses at Cleveland High School for new credit. Heather and one other white young man were the only two that knew about these online courses. Now, when the information came out through court litigation, we found out that the district had assigned a legal course number to an illegal course. Yet, the course never reported to the Mississippi Department of Education. As a matter of fact, we found out that Cleveland High School had not offered physics, which was the course in question, Cleveland High School had not offered physics in the district for the past 10 years.
Okay, so let's because you said a mouthful, okay, and I know you know a lot about this. In addition to having gone through it with your daughter, you have worked in the school district in Cleveland and helped them to create their curriculum. But let's back up. So essentially, Jasmine, you were named valedictorian of the class of 2016, correct?
Well, actually, I was named co-valedictorian from the very start. See, the week that we found out, like we were waiting for graduation day, and usually they make the announcement like a week or more in advance, and it was the day before graduation, and I still hadn't heard anything. My friends from the other school that is in Cleveland, because at this time we still had two schools, we hadn't officially desegregated. And so they had found out, who was the Val, who was the Sal. They had known for about maybe even a month. They were prepping their speeches and everything at that school. But at my school, we knew nothing. So here comes the day before graduation day. I was out of town, and my principal called and said, well, we have 2 valedictorians this year, and you're one of them. So, yeah, I only had, the rest of that day to figure out my speech and everything else.
Okay, so, Dr. Shepherd, is that common that a valedictorian, I mean, valedictorian, for as long as it's been in existence, in my knowledge, is the top senior. Salutatorian is the number 2 person in the senior class. So what was their reasoning there for saying co-valedictorian? Either you got it or you didn't get it.
Well, the district indicated that there was an absolute tie as far as the GPA, which is the QPA. They are the same. The QPA is just a weighted GPA. But anyway, the district claimed that there was a tie as it related to the GPA of Jasmine and Heather. However, we have never been produced any paperwork or documentation validating a tie on May 19th, 2016. So that's why they indicated that we had co-valedictorian.
Okay. So was there? So there were valedictorian. Was there a salutatorian named, or no? They just said co-valedictorian and no salutatorian.
There was a salutatorian named, and she was a Black girl as well. Based on our calculations, Jasmine was the valedictorian. Chelsea was the salutatorian, who was also Black, and Heather's GPA actually qualified her for the 3rd spot.
Which would have been nothing as far as so was, because what we've learned so far in the West Point issue instance was that these 2 white students were vying for scholarships and they needed to be named valedictorian and or salutatorian, and that's why they went through all the process. Okay, so let's focus on Cleveland. So Miss Jasmine, so they came to you not only, telling you you're co-valedictorian without showing you numbers and everything, but then they only told you what, a week or a few days in advance. So
the day before graduation.
And actually, I feel just as Layla and Ikeria did in the superintendent, they felt as if the superintendent didn't plan to tell them anything. I feel the same thing was in the works as it related to Jasmine. The principal and the counselor at the school had given several dates as as a time or deadline when they were going to announce the Val, Sal, and undergraduates. The first deadline passed, they said nothing. The second deadline passed, they said nothing. Honors night, which is the night that Ikeria and Layla were named, Jasmine's honor night, they gave out all the awards and said nothing about the valedictorian or the salutatorian. So on the day before graduation, which was in her case was May 19th, I made up my mind that night before, which was on the 18th, that I'm going to pay them a visit because it just didn't make any sense.
Exactly.
So I showed up at the school unannounced on the morning of May 19th, which was the day before graduation at 7:15. And I went there to meet with the principal to find out what actually is going on. He gave me the runaround saying that students were still taking tests. They still had some averaging to do, and they just had a whole lot of excuses. And I was like, come on, Mr. Craddock, you know, I'm in education, you in education. You know that the day before graduation, anybody that is still taking a test is not going to be
not graduating.
Because I hadn't even been at school for maybe a week or two, because you know, students who have all A's, we're exempt from 9 weeks test. We don't have to worry about that. So we didn't go to school probably the last 2 weeks. So anyone that was vying for the top spots, we were at home.
So it was no reason. So then he started saying, well, they're going to announce it from the central office. So I'm like, central office? Why would the central office have to announce the Val and Sal? So that's when he said, well, we're going to have to, the central office is going to announce them. Well, the central office didn't announce the Val and Sal at the black school in Cleveland. So why would they be announcing the Val and Sal at the majority white school here in Cleveland? But anyway, you know, that was his excuse, and I wasn't going to get anything. So, you know, at that point, I just told him that, you know, when the decision is made, I would like to have my daughter's information that led to whatever calculation that she has as far as her GPA. And I went home. He told me at that time that we will make announcements at 10 o'clock that morning. So I left, came home waiting on 10 o'clock. Jasmine was gone with her sister out of town or whatever. And I'm there waiting by the phone, you know, what's going to happen at 10 o'clock? Well, 10 o'clock came, no call. 10:30 came, no call. By that time, I started calling the school. I couldn't even get an answer at the school. So anyway, finally, Mr. Craddock did call me, and he told me, we do have Who's the Val. We have 2, and Jasmine is one of them. And of course, I was excited about her, you know, earning this designation, this title that she had worked so very hard for. But anyway, he asked me, should he tell Jasmine or did I want to tell him? And I just told him you could give her a call, and I gave him her number, and that's when he contacted her.
So it sounds as if had you not gone to the school and talked to them, there's no telling if they would have even named her as valedictorian. It's
I don't feel that they would have. I believe that they were going to name, because we had already heard rumors in the community that they had a white Val and a black Sal. So I do believe that they did not plan on naming Jazz at all. And I believe that the paperwork that they had in their system indicated at that time that there was no tie. Jasmine was clearly the Val. She had all A's, and she had taken several accelerated and advanced courses. In Cleveland, they have 2 types of accelerated quality point classes. They have some 5-point class. No, 4 points is regular for an A. 5 point. They had some 5-point classes, and then some are 6-point class. The 5-point classes, they call those accelerated classes. And the 6-point classes, they call those advanced courses. Jasmine took a variety of those courses. So we knew that she was going to be a top contender. We also knew that the young lady that they named as the CoVal chose not to take as many advanced classes as Jasmine, because in Cleveland, as part of an agreement through a consent decree regarding desegregating the schools, Cleveland had proposed to the courts that they would offer all of the advanced classes through an international baccalaureate program at Eastside High School, which is the Black school. So in order for students to get the advanced courses, they had to be bused to the Black school to get them. Well, during Jasmine's junior year, Heather decided that she didn't want to go to the Black school. So there were some courses that were offered for 6 points that Heather didn't take, that Jasmine did. So we knew that there should be some kind of discrepancy between the two.
Right, because she didn't take the advanced classes to even qualify to be co-valedictorian. So, okay, so now, and you mentioned that they claimed that the student who in question, who was named co-valedictorian, that she did not. You said they instead of them, because they knew they couldn't prove that she went to the Black high school to take the accelerated courses. Now they came up with some classes that they said were that she took online, which were not approved, because that would have been something that you would have known and everybody else would have known as a part of the course curriculum choices that she could have taken. But now all of a sudden there are mysterious classes that she took that qualified her to be co-valedictorian. So is that what they said?
Basically, and not only that raised them offering her those courses raised her GPA, but they also lowered mine by putting a regular class on mine. Like my mom said, a regular class is only weighted 4 points. So they put me in that class twice. So that lowered my GPA, and they hired her. So that put us on the same level. So really what they reported to the colleges and what they're reporting to me, my GPA should be higher than what they reported, and hers should be lower than what they reported, which is why we contend that the salutatorian actually should have been, the other student in question that was named co-valedictorian shouldn't have had any type of title. So it should have just been me as the valedictorian and then the salutatorian, and she should have been like number 3.
In addition to what they did as it related to the online course, in your student handbook, which they don't follow at all, but in the student handbook, it listed the courses that are accelerated. It listed courses that are advanced. And then it would say anything that is not in this list as accelerated or not in this list as advanced, they are regular and they are 4-point courses. Well, Heather's physics didn't appear in neither list, but she got 6 points for it. And in addition, there was another course called Human A&P. It didn't appear in any list, but she got 5 points for it. It should have been a 4-point class. So those were the things that the district did to create a tie. Because keep in mind, we never saw any information on the 19th. Because if they determined that it was a tie on the 19th, we should have been able to see a printout from the computer showing that tie on the 19th. Now, through the court process, they promised that they were going to get this information to us. As a matter of fact, the principal indicated that he took the information to the Black superintendent, showed it to her. She saw that it was a tie, and she said, "Looks like we have co-valedictorian." But this information mysteriously disappeared. But during the deposition process, she said she had 2 copies of the information, promised to send it to us, which we were entitled to it through discovery. But guess what? When you have legal people that are shrewd with circumventing court processes, They don't do what the courts say. We never saw that document. They never produced it.
So you're speaking about a court case. So you decided, your family decided to file a lawsuit against what the Cleveland School District. Is that who the lawsuit was against?
Yes, ma'am.
We filed a
Okay.
lawsuit against the Cleveland School District, as well as Jackie Thickpen, who was the superintendent, and she's Black, and the principal of the school, Stephen Craddock, who is white. They were all named as defendants.
Okay, so I want to talk with more about that as well, but let me ask this first. So if they went as far as to create some the illusion of some classes online that they claim that the other person took, the white student took, then they also had to make up what attendance. There had to be something about her attendance. So it seems like it was more, it has to be a concentrated effort of more than one administrator to make this happen. Is that what you think happened? And if so, why do you think that it happened? Was it because that they didn't want Jasmine as a Black student to be named valedictorian? Or, why the conspiracy behind not giving your daughter the honors that she earned?
I think that it was a combination of things. Like I mentioned earlier, we were going through this desegregation lawsuit, and I think the judge made a decision, I think like 5 days before my graduation, that the schools had to be desegregated and combined. And then it was just the fear of white flight, and that's like prevalent in our community a lot. They're scared that white people are just going to leave, and that's going to take all of the money away from the community. So I feel that they made us co-valedictorians to appease the white community, basically.
I mean, so, it doesn't, it's like, you did what you're supposed to do. You took the classes, you earned the grades, you followed the rules, and still they find a reason to not honor you and not give you what you earned. How did that make you feel?
Well,
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Mom.
I was gonna interject that you have to keep in mind that Cleveland for 62 years had avoided or averted Brown versus the Board of Education. So 62 years after Brown, we were still running segregated schools in Cleveland. We had two high schools, one that was 100% Black, and we had Cleveland High School, which was fairly integrated, but it was considered historically white school. Cleveland had never had a Black valedictorian in its 110-year history. So on the cusp of Judge Brown ruling that you got to desegregate these schools, and then at the same time you have the first Black valedictorian, Cleveland wasn't going to hear of that at all. So if it was any way, I do feel that if I had not shown up at the school, they were going to take it outright. But they couldn't hear of them not having a white representative of Cleveland High School in those top two positions. So they made the co-valedictorian, because according to Heather's GPA, it should have been number 3, and the two Black kids should have been 1 and 2.
So, Jasmine, I know that's hard. That's a lot for you as an individual to have to take on all of that. How did you handle that? Did you, and it seems like you are doing well, and you stayed in Cleveland. But how was it to go through that experience and not get the just acknowledgement that you deserved in that moment?
Well, when I first found out that we were co-valedictorians, of course, it was a mixture of emotions, I guess you can say. I was excited, but also I was like, well, hold on, because I mean, it's a small school. Well, not that small, but in our little honor circle, basically, we knew what classes everyone was taking and everything, and I knew what I was taking. I knew what the other student was taking. So that was where the confusion played in. And my mom advocated for me. She, was talking back and forth with the principal, trying to figure out how a tie took place. And when they stopped, basically communicating at all, they basically said, hey, you graduated, you're not my problem anymore. And so that's when I made the decision to sue. And my point was, it wasn't really about me at that point because they had already done me wrong. But it was about future generations, making sure that they didn't do this to another student. And sadly, they did. But that was my main thing. Yes, I feel horrible about, the circumstances. And yes, I cried a lot, especially when my case went viral, because I was receiving threats and other things from, people from all over the world. And I was going through all of this just because I wanted to take a stand. I didn't want this to happen to other people. And as you can see, it's still happening, and it's happening a lot in Mississippi. And I feel like if I had gone further in my case, or if my case had went to court, maybe, some of the things that are happening now in Mississippi wouldn't have happened. So it's just a mixture of emotions and me feeling like, what can I do to help other people that are going through it? And that's why, I wanted to spend a couple years in education, teaching. And that's also why I want to go to law school, because I don't want it to keep on happening to kids.
So it seems like, after all the proof of the fake classes and the fake attendance and grades to boost the white students above Black students, the judge in your case still said there was no racial discrimination that was proven. Yet the judge said that there were. It was like the judge said you had proven your case, but you hadn't proven that it was racial. How can that be, one in the same when, I mean, if you prove your case, then you prove that it was racial discrimination. So what do you think? I know you lost the case, but what do you think you got out of it as far as helping others? Because you said that there is another student in your school district that it happened to, or has happened to since you graduated.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm just hoping that the facts of my case, because another thing that the judge said is that there was no pattern. We couldn't prove a pattern. It hadn't happened to anyone else. And so I'm hoping that my case proves that pattern. I'm hoping that she'll be able to go further than I did just because I took a stand. And don't get me wrong, I think that it's happened to people before me, but they just didn't, know to stand up. They didn't know to fight for it. And I'm lucky, and the other student, Alicia, she's lucky as well, because we have great women in our lives that have stood up for us.
And you would think that if it's that black people, Black administrators would stand up and do the right thing for Black students, the leaders of the community. But you said that one of the administrators is a Black woman. How does, have you had a chance to speak with her? And I know Dr. Shepherd, you said that you wrote a letter to board members trying to get a response from them, because it's not just your daughter who has been aggrieved, and there's another student, but now the two students in another school district. What is it, that you think they are afraid to admit, and why won't they face this? Because I mean, they're in that position for a reason.
Well, as far as the Black superintendents, because there is a Black superintendent in West Point as well, I keep on hearing people say, but they're Black. I want people to know that just because someone is Black does not mean that they can't do another Black person wrong. Just because you're Black does not mean that you can't discriminate your own people. It was called Uncle Tom for a reason. That's what an Uncle Tom is.
Well,
So I just feel like, and even the principal in West Point in interviews, he said, I would never do that to a Black student. I'm Black, the superintendent, I'm Black myself. That does not mean anything. A Black person can do wrong by another Black person. They can discriminate.
I just feel that in Mississippi, lots of people don't want to discuss race. It doesn't have anything to do with race. It's the first thing that they would cry. But in Akiria and Layla's case, as well as Jasmine, we have white people, whether they're people in authority or the actual students themselves, feel that their whiteness gives them a privilege that nobody else has. We have that in other agencies throughout our state because our Mississippi Department of Education oversees all of our schools. They have lots of rules and regulations that would that they should be following, and people violate those rules and regulations without consequence. In Akiria and Layla's case, the superintendent indicates that he made a grade change, or he changed or added some grades. Well, the state of Mississippi it's a state law that indicates that no one could change grades except for the teacher. So he could bring clarity to the public by, sharing how this process actually worked. MDE could bring clarity to the public by, investigating these kinds of things, especially when they get the national spotlight, to determine whether or not the rules and regulations are being followed. In Jasmine's case, where the Cleveland School District did not report information to MSIS like they say, we have a state law that says the principal and the superintendent are responsible for the accuracy of information that is reported to MSIS. No consequence was ever delivered as far as any of the people who participated in what the court has determined actually happened in Jasmine's case. So if they feel that they could get away with it, it will continue to happen as long as there is no consequence for it happening.
So it seems like this should be investigated by the federal authorities. Do you think this will lead to some type of investigation, outside of the state, since it seems like state administrators are trying to ignore the problem?
Well, our state really doesn't get involved in many matters, particularly when you have white administration in place. Our school board here in Cleveland is predominantly white. So in those instances, the State Department of Education would turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to violations of accountability standards and accreditation policies for those districts, but let a Black district with Black administration and Black control do the same thing that Cleveland did, they would be snatching their accreditation in a minute and have them posted on the front page of the state newspaper for violating it. In Cleveland's case, where they were offering online courses that were not approved by the state of Mississippi, so the kids couldn't get credit for those courses. So there are possibly instances where as kids graduated without meeting the minimum graduation requirements, because on those online lists that they produced, they indicated that kids were say for example, health, or say for example, an English 4 that they really needed. under those instances, if kids didn't have credit for those courses and they are minimally required courses to get a diploma in the state of Mississippi, those students graduated without meeting the minimum requirements for a diploma and should not have been awarded a diploma. Why has the Mississippi Department of Education not investigated that? That's against the law. And there are students now who have diplomas that should not have gotten them because they are cheating.
Well, this seems like there's more to, if you keep digging, or if I keep digging, which I plan to do, I'm going to try to find out more to see why this is, well, we know why it's happening, but we want to stop it because, it's time for them to be held accountable,
Yes.
so that this doesn't happen. And Miss Jasmine, I want to thank you and your mom for allowing us to hear more about your story, and I wish you success on the LSAT. And do you know what law school you're planning to attend? Have you gotten that far in your thoughts?
I have a lot in mind. I'm hoping, depending on my LSAT score, to go out of state though. But that's just up in the air right now.
So
some of the names of the schools we're planning on going to.
Like Tulane, Vanderbilt, schools like that.
Okay, all right. Now, Dr. Shepherd, do you have any other children who are in the school system in Cleveland? And what would you do differently if you had it to do over again to avoid this, or to what would you say to parents who might have students in the school system to help them to keep this from happening to their child?
Well, that's a hard one, as far as preventing discrimination. But the best advice that I could give to any parent is to support their children in their efforts to excel. Give them all the emotional support and encouragement that they can give, such that they would do their very best, and let them know that you're proud of them regardless. So, no pressure, on them to do what mom and dad may want them to do, but do what's in their mind. So just give them the emotional support and encouragement to do what they would like to do as far as excelling as it relates to their studies. And Jasmine did that. And as far as us deciding to pursue litigation, that was Jasmine's decision. I didn't put any pressure on her, and I said, whatever you decide, and she was like, Mama, I know I had the highest grade point average. And I do feel that we need to stand against this injustice, because we still feel and know that it was based on the color of her skin.
Well, I commend you for doing that in spite of all the backlash that you might have gotten, because that's another lesson that, when you stand for what's right or what you feel, there's not gonna, sometimes people won't agree with you, but you have to stand in your convictions, anyway. So, I commend you on that. And is there any last words? And I do want to keep in touch with you. If you want for people to contact you for support, or is there a social media platform where they can go, or a website where they can find out more about your case?
We don't have any information currently posted regarding the case, but I do have a Facebook page, so they just look up Sherry Shepherd on Facebook. The same with Jasmine Shepherd, and we reach out to whoever and provide whatever support and information that we can. As a matter of fact, when Jasmine heard about Akiria and Layla's case, she reached out to them and let them know that We were there and available to give them, advice about how or what we had to go through in trying to, get our matters resolved. And they have taken us up on it. And as a matter of fact, we talk daily. We have our own little parent support group. Myself and Olicia James, grandmother, Yvonne Herring, and the Washingtons, Angela Washington and Lakeita Temple, Lanika Temple. I call them Mrs. because I'm in education. So anyway, the Washington and the Temples, and we've been conversing. We have our own little chat group. We talk every day. And we've been working. As a matter of fact, they're having a school board meeting, whereas they have filed an official grievance regarding the incident leading up to them being declared whatever. They say co-valedictorian, but the superintendent let them know that they were actually not the Val or the Sal. The real Val and the Sal were the white kids, but they allowed them to participate in the ceremony as a courtesy. That's what he told them. So we are planning on going to West Point, Mississippi tomorrow, such that we could be there in support of the Washingtons and the Temple as they navigate the justice system regarding their girls.
Well, I definitely will keep up with you and your support group because I do documentaries, and this could be one that we want to produce. So again, thanks, ladies, for joining us, and we will keep in touch. So I put that they could contact you on your Facebook pages, and we will certainly keep in touch. So thanks again, and you have a great positive week, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.
All righty. So thanks for joining us. Our guests were Dr. Sherry Shepard and her daughter, Jasmine Shepard, talking about their court case against the Cleveland School District in Cleveland, Mississippi, and what they went through as Jasmine was a senior 2016, and when she was cheated out of her valedictorian status. And so it just seems as if you take one step forward, or you think the United States has taken steps forward. And then you hear about instances like this where it seems like we have not progressed at all, because, hatred and racism is taught. And if we don't allow people to develop and to excel based on their abilities, then we really haven't progressed. And so I just want to thank the Shepherds for sharing their story. And if you have any questions or comments, you be sure to send those to me. You can text me at 214-919-9360. And also, to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal at eurweb.com. Thanks, and have a super day.